Okay, so we'll start in a short meditation before we come to moving. And I'm going to invite you to place your left hand on your heart, right hand to your belly, your baby in your bump. And take a moment to close your eyes. And allow yourself to arrive in this space of stillness and calm that you've set aside for yourself this evening, for you and your baby. Now taking a moment to land your awareness into your hands, exploring any sensations throughout the hands, any heat, coolness, feeling that contact of your hands on your body. And notice the subtle movement of your breath as you meet it. That natural rise and fall. And there's no need to change your breath. We're just practicing being with your breath. Coming into this space of presence and stillness. Being with yourself and your baby. Now take a moment to acknowledge your baby within you, this growing life. And recognizing each breath that you take is nourishing yourself and your baby. And take a moment to thank yourself for committing to this time for you both. And then gently blinking the eyes open, you can release your hands from your body, and we're going to bring the hands into a mudra. This is a hand gesture yoga for the hands called a palm mudra, known as energy mudra. So to do this, you're going to bring your thumbs, your ring finger and middle finger together, and then little finger and index finger stay pointed. And then place in this mudra of the palm facing up, down on the knees, and taking a moment to close the eyes again. If it feels uncomfortable with the eyes closed, you could turn your gaze down towards the ground and find a soft gaze. Now finding a very soft and subtle flow of the breath. So a kind of balance between regulating your breath and mindfulness of breathing. So it's got that soft quality of the observational breath, the presence and a focus of regulating your breath. And I'll tell you a little bit about this mudra. So I felt this mudra is quite relevant for today, because it's a good one for developing vision for the future and seeing things ahead of us so we can find this sense of clarity moving forwards into new challenges. The Apana mudra has a balancing effect on the mind, which is largely dependent upon a well-functioning liver. And it gives us patience, serenity, confidence, inner balance and harmony. In the mental realm, it creates the ability to develop vision when facing new challenges and the unknown. I'm going to name some of those words that are associated with the quality of this mudra, and any of those words that particularly resonate with you this evening, kind of jump out. Allow that word to be your intention for your practice. Patience, serenity, confidence, inner balance, harmony, and strength, clear vision. Allowing that one word to be your intention for your practice, inviting that quality in with your in-breath. As you follow the thread of your in-breath, Allow yourself to receive your intention. Invite that quality in to cultivate on your yoga practice this evening. And then on the out breath, following the out breath and letting go of anything that might be in the way of your intention. It's often doubt, distraction, or judgment. As you inhale, receive your intention, that one word that sums up what you'd like to invite in. And exhale, release doubt, judgment, fear. And staying with that for a few more rounds of breath, connecting to the quality of receiving on the inhale and letting go on your exhale. As you stay here for a few moments longer, notice when the mind gets distracted and gently draw your attention back to your breath and your intention. And turning the gaze down to the ground if your eyes are closed. Winking the eyes open and releasing your mudra throughout the hands. You might feel a bit of a strong sensation throughout the hands after that one. We're just going to release the wrists a little so you can interlace your fingers and then very gently flow a little wave-like movement throughout the wrists and the hands. And then switch direction. So we'll start with some gentle Qigong movements this evening before moving into the more traditional yoga practice. And then the first one, come down to your mats and up to your mats rather. We're going to stand with the feet hip distance apart. So starting with your feet hip distance apart, finding a nice grounding through the feet. Take a moment to spread out through your toes and then have a little play at shifting your weight from the balls of the feet to the heels of the feet. And then subtly from side to side. Have a little explore it, drawing the hips slightly forwards and back, feeling that shift of weight on your feet. And find that place where your spine wants to settle into a tall, elongated shape where you feel balanced and centered. From here, take a slow, steady breath in through the nose. And allow a nice long sigh through the mouth. This time we'll open the mouth a little wider on the breath out. Give the jaw a nice long stretch, maybe even stretch out the tongue, sticking out the tongue wide. Breathing in. So you might like to take the lion's breath on the next one as you release, letting go of any of that fear, doubt, or judgment that might be clouding your intention. Breathe in. Now drawing the arms to the side with your palms facing up. Allow the breath to be fairly natural in these movements. I might cue the inhale and exhale, but find a nice gentle rhythm to your breath that feels in harmony and peaceful. So as you inhale, draw the arms up. And as you exhale, glide the hands around the back of the skull without touching the skull. The hands gently move around towards facing the front of the body, facing inwards towards the chest and the belly. As you get down towards the belly, draw the hands round to the back body, facing in towards the kidneys and the lower back. And keeping that space between your hands and the body so you're never touching the body. Gently glide your hands down the back of the thighs. Might like to take the feet a little wider if the bump's a bit bigger here. And draw the hands down the calves, moving as low as you can that feels comfortable for baby and bump. And then as you get towards the feet, draw the hands around the front of the feet and then facing inwards towards the inner thighs. as you land all the way back up. So this is the water element Qigong form. It's a really nice way to balance all those new fluids running through your body. Breathe in, draw the arms up. As you exhale and glide down behind the back of the head. Moving over to the front body, the chest and the belly. Moving slowly as if you were moving through water. Hands move around towards the back body, lower back and kidneys. Gliding down the back of the thighs, back of the calves. And circling around the front of your feet, around your toes, and up towards the inner arches of the feet, inner seam of the leg. And all the way back to center. We'll do 3 more like this. Breathing in. And breathe out, hands glide behind. Gently moving over to the front, facing inwards. As you reach your belly, glide your hands down to the lower back. The kidneys, the organ associated with the water element, organs. And glide your hands down the back of the thighs, calves, around your toes to the inner seam of your legs. Softly moving back to center. And taking 2 more like this. If this movement feels familiar now, you might even like to close your eyes and explore any sensations beginning to arise throughout the body as you make these movements. And the Qigong is really nice for pregnancy because it circulates the blood without taxing the lungs. It's very effective, efficient, without creating too much taxing on the body. Allowing the hands to gently move up and back to center. Throwing your arms by your side. That was a water element form relating to the season of winter. We'll move in towards a couple of spring element forms relating to the wood element. This is a nice way to uplift as we transition towards the yoga. So you can ground down through the left fingertips, kind of reaching the left fingertips down. As you breathe in, reach up through the right hand until you feel a nice stretch down the right side of the body. Allow your arms to reach in opposite directions and turn your gaze down towards the left fingertips. And side stretches are really nice to practice if you're feeling short of breath. So the baby takes up quite a lot of the room for your lungs to move. And when we do the side stretches, it helps stretch the intercostal muscles in between the ribs, so you can shift in towards lateral breathing kind of sideways, allowing the lungs to expand in a different direction. We'll gently windmill and switch, reaching that left arm up, right hand down. Turn your gaze down towards your right hand as you reach your hands in opposite directions. Same with your breath, and maybe landing your awareness on the left side rib cage, the left side of the lungs. Feeling into that subtle expansion and contraction with your inhale and exhale. Now your next inhale to initiate the movement. Breathe in, windmill the arms to switch. And exhale, gaze down. One more on the opposite side. Breathe in. And breathe out, gaze to the right. Gently moving back to center. So before we do our final Qigong form, we'll spend a nice fluid amount of movement around your hips during that circular movement of the pelvis. Feeling into how your hips are this evening. So if you've had any kind of pelvic girdle pain or that what I refer to as quite sloppy hips, when the hips are starting to move and prepare for your baby's arrival, then try and draw smaller circles, really mindfully working on that stability as well as mobility. And what I like to do here is imagine those two magnets, kind of a magnet on each hip bone, hugging in towards one another. So you've got that heightened sense of awareness around the pelvis and the pelvic floor, feeling into a balance of stability and mobility as you find this nice, easeful, welcome flow around the hips. And then switching direction. And as you're doing these movements around the pelvis, make sure that both feet are grounded. So notice if any part of the foot wants to kind of creep up as you're doing these movements. See if you can maintain that steady groundedness through your foundation of your feet. Taking a couple more switches in each direction. You can switch whenever it feels intuitive to do so. If you're doing a nice little dance with your baby. And moving back to center. So our final Qigong form, the wood element form. Keeping the knees, keeping the legs where they are, unless your bump is rather large and you're starting to feel that if you bend forwards, you might need a little more space. So if your bump's getting a little bigger and you're feeling that, then take the feet a little wider. So in this next one, we're going to be taking a bend to the knees and we're going to be reaching forwards. So decide whether it's hip distance or for you a little wider. Turn the palms to face up. Keep the feet grounded and rooted. Inhale, circle the arms. And as you exhale, take a deep bend into the knees as if you're sitting down into a chair. And the back of the hands face one another. Sweep your fingertips forwards and reach the crown of the head forwards. And just come as low as baby bump allows. So no striving, we're just finding that place that feels just right. So there's no compression on your bump. And as you breathe in, draw the arms wide, ground into your feet, and rise back up. So we'll be going through that with a little more pace. I just wanted you to kind of check in and be mindful of bump as you're making the movements. It's one of the more stronger Qigong forms, and it's really quite strengthening for the thighs and the lower body. Breathe in, circle the arms up. As you breathe out, deep squat. Reach forwards through the crown of the head, back of the palms, back of the hands face one another. And as you inhale, press through your feet, hands draw wide like you're doing breaststroke to come all the way to standing. Inhale, circle the arms up. Exhale, squat, reach forwards, back of the hands face one another. Crown of the head reaches forwards. Ground the feet, swim the hands to the side as you arrive back in standing. Inhale, arms circle up. Exhale, squat, reach forwards. Inhale, swim the hands wide, stand. Exhale, release. And two more, and I'll just cue the inhale and exhale now. You're a little more familiar with that form. Breathe in. And breathe out. Inhale. Exhale. Final one, breathe in. Breathe out. Inhale. Exhale. Allow the arms to be heavy. Take a moment to close the eyes. Find a position that feels really welcoming to standing. Kind of steady, comfortable standing posture. As you close the eyes, take a moment to scan your awareness throughout your body and notice any new sensations that might have arisen from those movements. That practice of being present, mindfulness of body and breath. And then gently blinking the eyes open, and we'll come down towards all fours. So if you would like to create a little cushioning for the knees, feel free to grab a little blanket. If you want to have that added bit of nourishment into your class, you could pop a blanket under the knees for all fours. And then placing the hands stacked underneath your shoulders. We're going to wake up the wrists and be on all fours for a little while, so you can lift up through your right arm, taking a bend into that right elbow, and then take a little shake throughout the right hand, really waking up the wrist and the hand, sending a little blood down there. And now bring your hand to a hover above the mat, keeping a hover as you spread out through the fingers. Feel that aliveness and awakeness of your hands. Might feel a little more warmth. And slowly plant down through the hand. You find that even kind of balance and awareness through the palm. We'll do the same through the left side. Lift up through the arm, bend into the elbow, and shake out the wrist and the hand. Hand comes to a hover, spread your fingers, land it shoulder distance apart. Feel that even groundedness throughout the hands. Now have a little play at spreading down and pressing onto the finger pads so that you shift any unnecessary tension away from the wrist. From here, tilt your chin down towards your chest and gently turn the tailbone down, rounding into the left, into the back, into the cat shape. Now initiate the next movement with the pelvis, tilt the tailbone up. And as you start to slowly tilt the tailbone up, allow that ripple effect to move up the spine as you open out into cow pose. Initiating from the pelvis again, tilt the tailbone down, roll in the spine into cat pose, that slight doming and rounding of the upper back. Tailbone begins to slowly tilt up, opening the spine into cow pose. And now continue with these subtle, simple movements through the spine, with that awareness and presence on the pelvic area, so you can feel the movement initiating from the pelvis. And maybe incorporating a little pelvic floor play into these movements. As you tilt your tailbone up, begin to soften and release the pelvic floor. And as you tilt your tailbone down, draw in and up through the pelvic floor muscles. Visualizing the front, middle and back. That sling of muscles around the pelvic floor. Softly releasing those muscles as you tilt the tailbone up into your cow shape, open heart. And contraction, drawing in and up as you tilt the tailbone down. Initiating your spinal movement from the pelvis. And acknowledging that relationship between the pelvic floor muscles and your spine. And continuing like this for a few more. Exploring that level of presence, awareness and play around the pelvic floor. And I like to close my eyes when I'm drawing my awareness to this part of the body. It kind of takes away any other external stimulus that might be distracting and allows me to focus on those muscles. Pelvis tilts down, draw in and up, front, middle and back. Tailbone tilts up, softly releasing the pelvic floor. And now as you next tilt the tailbone down, continue with that rounding of the back body. Start to push the mat away from you and slowly lower your hips down towards your heels as if you're moving in towards child's pose. Take the knees just a little wider so you accommodate your bump and lower your forearms to the ground. Inhale, sweep your heart forwards. And when you can't move the chest forwards anymore, lift the elbows. Gently hug the elbows in towards one another. So this will keep them in line with the shoulders, and then heart shines up, back to cow. Moving from the pelvis, tilt the tailbone down so you transition back through your cat and softly roll the hips down again. So we'll continue with these slow, mindful spinal flows. Forearms lower, Chest moves forwards and through. And transition from the pelvis, turn the tailbone down as you roll into cat. Hips lower, forearms lower. And initiate that next movement from the pelvis, tailbone tilts up. So you open the heart and move in towards your cow shape. Tailbone tilts down, rolling into cat. Hips lower, forearms lower. And then continue like this. Feeling into that fluidity of the spine. And the relationship between your pelvis, your pelvic floor, and your spine. And in that balance of stability and mobility. And as you're doing these movements, can you invite your intention into your practice? Patience, serenity, confidence, inner balance, clear vision. Whatever word you invite it in. Allow yourself to receive that in these movements. Now coming back to center. We're going to stay on all fours a little longer, so if the wrists are starting to feel sore at all, you come onto two fists, and that can take the pressure off the wrists if you're feeling like that. And now start to draw a few little circles out through the hips. And then draw through to a spiral shape, so you can start with those small circles, visualizing the pelvis rolling around the head of the thigh bones. And maintaining these small circles if you're feeling that the hips are feeling a little loose or you've had some pains around the pelvis, and you stay in with these subtle small movements. And if you're feeling a little tight around the hips and you want to find more fluidity, gently make those circles larger, spiraling out to the largest part of the spiral, large circles. And then switch direction. If you vary the shape, moving from large back to small. And switch. Gradually making the circles a little larger. And finally switching, moving back to center. And this time as you move back to center, spiral your awareness inwards, up through to the pelvic floor, finding that slow, mindful contraction, drawing in and up through the front, middle and back passage as you spiral in towards the center of the pelvic floor. And then maintaining these very small movements, very small circular movements around the pelvis, as if you're spiraling your awareness inwards towards the pelvic floor muscles. Keep this and then mirror that throughout this gentle movement throughout the head and the neck. So you can feel a relationship between the head and the neck and the pelvis. Finding a nice release throughout the head and the neck. And you continue to spiral your awareness in and out through the pelvic floor. It might feel a little bit like you're tapping your head and rubbing your belly. It's a bit of a brain workout. And then switch directions, that same movement, like switching the rotation direction. Going a little slower, continuing to ground your awareness right at the pelvic floor. And then gently slowing down to center. I'm going to bring the knees a little wider, big toes to touch. Lower the forearms. And rest your head on the hands. If the bump doesn't allow that, you could take two fists and rest your forehead on the top fist. And allow yourself to settle in this modified child's pose. Slowing down the breath. And landing your awareness on the back of the body, the back of the ribs, the back of the lungs. Allow yourself to feel into that gentle rise and fall of the breath on the body. That physical and subtle feeling of the breath. And gently walk your hands back out, spreading out through your fingers, taking the feet wide for your down dog. Tuck your toes and raise your hips, downward facing dog. Option to turn the fingertips a little out to the side and create a bit more space around the shoulders. Gently swaying your hips from side to side, feeling that sensation shift from one side of the body to the next. Now as you gaze forward, step your right foot forwards wide enough to accommodate bump. You come onto your fingertips to allow that. And then drawing the hips back, press into the back foot. So you rock your hips forwards, press into the front foot, and lightly step forwards. Forearms come to thighs. And take your breath in here. And exhale, side to standing. That can help you avoid being lightheaded on the way up. So we'll do a couple of Pregnancy modified sun salutes, starting with the hands in Anjali Mudra, palms to touch, tapping into that quality of being centered and finding an inner balance. As you breathe in, reach up through the fingertips. As you exhale, bend the knees, lowering the hands into your forward fold, maybe landing onto the fingertips to keep that spaciousness around baby and bump. Step your right knee back and lower your back knee to the ground. As you ground into the left foot, inhale, sweep your arms forwards and up. And as you exhale, lower the hands. So if you're gliding your hands through water, and gently draw your hips back with you a little. Inhale, sweep the arms up, taking that deep bend into the front knee. And exhale, glide back. Coming into that Ujjayi ocean sounding breath, so find a little more movement, uplift. Steady breath in through the nose and steady breath out through the nose. And listen into the sound of your breath as you connect breath and movement. Final one, breathe in. As you breathe out, land your hands on the inside of your left foot. And then heel toe your left foot to the left side. Turn the toes slightly out. Either keeping onto your fingertips or bringing the hands down. And now find that very small circular movement around the pelvis again, in this shape. You might feel a little more sensation around the hips in this new shape. And walking the hands into center. Ground down through that right hand. Now we slide the left foot back. So you can slide it wide. Spread out through the toes so that left leg straight. And the heel to the ground. And then turn the right foot out slightly so you can press onto the ball of the right foot. Bringing the left hand to your hip. Option to stay here. Or reach the arm up and over into your side stretch. Finding that nice release for your breath again as you stretch your intercostals. Staying with the breath, that steady breath in through the nose. Steady breath out through the nose. Gently moving that hand back down to the ground. Lower your left knee down back to all fours. Breathe into cow pose. Breathe out, cat pose. Inhale, cow. Exhale, cat. Breathe in, cow. As you exhale, tuck your toes, raise your hips, downward facing dog. And that gentle swaying side to side of the hips. Feel the weight shift from one side of the body to the other. Left hand, left foot, and right hand, right foot. And now set the left foot forwards. You can space for your bum, coming onto your fingertips. Draw your hips back, feel the weight shift to the right foot. Hips rock forwards, press to the left foot. You can lightly step forwards. Feet wide, forearms to thighs. Take a breath in. And exhale to stand in. So before we do the other side, we'll take a moment in stillness to reconnect to your baby and reconnect to your intention. Left hand to your heart, right hand to your baby and your bump. Feel the movement of your breath, your heart, and maybe some movement of your baby's growing life within you. Allow yourself to receive the nourishment of your in-breath. Welcome your intention back in. As you breathe out, letting go of fear, doubt, judgment, distraction. And back to the one word that you set as your intention, your anchor for your practice. And placing the hands back together to Anjali Mudra as you seal that. Inhale, reach up. And exhale, fold forwards. This time step the left foot back, lowering the back knee. Then back to our low lunge. Round into the right foot. Inhale, sweep your arms up. As you exhale, glide the hands back, gently drawing the hips back with you. Inhale, glide forwards, drawing the hips forwards with you. And attempt to move into the sound of your breath. Final one, breathe in, lift. As you exhale, lower your hands on the inside of your right foot. Heel toe the right foot to the side, toes turn out. And gently draw in a circle throughout the pelvis. Noticing how the hips are moving and how it might feel different on this side of the body. And then having a little switch of direction, really small, subtle circles in this shape. So we'll keep that left hand grounded, spreading out through the fingers. As you press into the left hand, and hug up towards the left shoulder so you've got a nice sense of stability on the left side. And then glide your right foot around, and then turn the left foot out a little bit so you can press onto the ball of the foot. I'm going to try and press down through the whole sole of the right foot, spreading the toes, grounding the foot. You can keep your hand here or reach up and over into your side stretch. Listening to your breath for 2 more rounds of breath. And gently lowering your hands, lower your knee. Now reset for the spine, breathe in cow pose. Breathe out cat pose. Now moving back to center. Tuck both sets of toes under. And then glide your right hand forward and your left foot back. So you could stay here with your balance, or start to lift up through your arm and your leg. And then back to that steady Ujjayi breath for focus and calm. Steady breath in through the nose and out through the nose. Gently lower the hand and the knee. Now gliding the left arm forwards, right leg back. Option to stay here or lift and come back to the regular rhythm of your breath. Lowering the hand, lowering your knee. And now keeping both hands grounded, lift up through your left leg and start to draw circles at the hip. So we're going to keep a bend into that knee. As if you kind of had a pencil on the kneecap, you're drawing a circle, feeling that nice mobility at the hip and a cultivation of strength and the stabilizing muscles of the hip. And then switching directions. You can sit out, stretch through the foot, spreading out through your toes. Giving that leg a nice long stretch and point through your toes. And reach the heel down as you flex your toes back towards you. Gently lowering down through that left knee. We'll do the same on the right side. Drawing those circles with the knee. And you circulate the hip joint. And switch direction. Now stretch your leg to release, spread out through the toes. And then flexing the toes back towards you as you point through the heel. And reach the toes back, stretching the roof of the foot. Lower your knee. Draw the knees wide, toes together. And landing back in your variation of child's pose. You're resting head on hands or two fists. Allow your body to sigh and surrender into the pose. Can you invite your body to rest in this shape? You'll take a steady breath in through the nose, maintaining the shape, and a slow sigh through the mouth. As you sigh, feel the body kind of drop and surrender into the shape. And taking 2 more breaths like that. And easing your way up to seated. I'm going to bring my legs wide into a straddle pose. So taking the legs fairly wide, but if you have been experiencing a little bit of pelvic girdle pain, then you might want to bring them a touch closer towards one another. There's still a spaciousness, but it's not over pushing you. And from here, interlace your fingers and find that place on the sit bones where you can gently rock forwards and back and feel that tilt of the pelvis rocking forwards and back. And then notice how that feels at the hip joint and through the back of the legs, with the legs straight. And now explore taking a bend into the knees and doing that same movement. So one of them might feel just right for your body. If the first one felt like it was quite a strong sensation on the back of the legs, then I recommend doing the bend in the knees, because during pregnancy we have the hormone relaxing in the body, and it can mean that you can overstretch the muscles. So if you're feeling a strong sensation, then that's already a sign that you don't need to go there. So you might like to keep that bend into the knees. It's also good to do this one if you've got a nice bit of freedom of movement at the hips, rocking forwards and back with the knees bent. If for you this first one worked, then feel free to try this one. And then from here, we're going to draw circles throughout the upper body, as if you're kind of stirring a cauldron or making a big cake. Drawing a circle throughout the interlaced fingers and feeling that circular movement throughout the spine and the hips. And then switching direction. Come back to the sound of your ujjayi breath, that regular rhythm, a calming, ocean-like sound to the breath. And switching direction whenever it feels intuitive to do so. And then easing your way back to center as you draw the circles a little smaller and smaller, spiraling your awareness back towards the center of the spine and the center of the pelvic floor. Bringing your awareness back to your inner center, your inner balance. And then as you arrive into that stillness and back into your seat, you can release the hands, and we're going to keep this position of the spine and take a bend into the left leg. Just bring your left foot to meet your right thigh. So you want to maintain that spaciousness around bump in this side stretch. So you might like to do this by bringing the forearm to the thigh and finding just a little kind of leverage there. And then walking it along the thigh and just finding that space that feels just right, so you're maintaining the spaciousness, the seam of the right side of the torso. And if that feels that there's not enough space, you can come onto the fingertips. And from here, inhale, reach the left arm up. You're pressing down through the forearm or pressing into the fingertips and taking a bend into the elbow. Just taking a nice long stretch and the left side of the body. So option to stay here. Just going to clear my throat, excuse me. Option to stay in this option. Or slide your hand behind the back of the head so that your skull is lightly supported by the palm of the hand. And you can kind of cup your thumb around the base of the skull for a bit of support. And then very gently press the back of the head into the hand and find a lift up through the elbow. So you've got a nice long stretch through that left side of the body. And then breathe deeply into this stretch, finding that space where the breath can move freely. So the sensation's not too much, it's not too little. Now pressing into either the forearm or the hand, if your hand's there, and ease your way back to center, pressing into the arm, the hand and the pelvis to glide your way back up. Before we do the other side, we'll rest the hands on the knees and then very gently draw the left ear down towards the left shoulder. Feeling a nice release down the right side of the neck. And then drawing the head back to center and lowering your right ear to your right shoulder. Releasing the left side of the neck. Ease your way back to center. And we'll switch sides, so outstretch the left leg. Right foot comes into the thigh. And we'll revisit those options, so forearm on the thigh to reach up, or coming onto the palm, maybe your fingertips, with that bend into the elbow to reach. Inhale, reach up. Find a position for the neck that feels just right. And it may be that turning your gaze up feels welcome, or turning the gaze down if the neck feels a little strained in that position. Option to stay here, or glide your hand behind the skull, gently pushing the head into the hand and supporting the base of the skull with your thumb. And as you lightly press the head into the hand, reach up through the elbow tip without a H, and then come back to your breath. And now press into that left hand, ground into the pelvis. Use your inhale to come all the way back up, root into rise, root through the pelvis to rise up. Using the right hand down, left hand on the knee, right hand on the knee. And releasing your neck again, right ear to right shoulder. And then left ear to left shoulder. Using your way back to center. I'm just going to do one more pose for the hips. There's two options, Z or pigeon pose. You've got to find an in-between pose. So for Z pose, we're going to bring the left foot in line with the right knee, taking a bend into the knee so that your legs are kind of in this Z shape. And then tiptoe your fingertips forwards until you feel a little sensation around the glutes and the back side of the hips. The option to stay there, or you might like to take pigeon pose, sliding that right leg back and then rolling the thigh in towards you. This pose, if you haven't got a cushion with you, you can revisit it later with a cushion, because it's really nice to place a cushion underneath your hips in this pose. Really nice variation for pregnancy, but also if you just want a nourishing version of pigeon supported hips. They go right underneath the hips. A soft cushion or a sturdy cushion if you have one can be better, or bolster. That's option 2, your pigeon, or maintaining that Z shape. And you can even do Z with a cushion as well. Taking a moment to steady the gaze and find that steady thread of the breath in your pose. And as you transition to the other side, bending into the knee. If you're in pigeon, sliding that right leg around. Then we'll switch with the right leg in front, left leg back, either into Z, right foot to left knee, or cushioning the hips, turning the left thigh in, and then finding that nice bit of support underneath the hips in your pigeon pose. You can vary the degree of extension in the spine by gently drawing the hands forwards, and that will decrease the level of extension in the spine if it feels in any way compressing for the lower back. You can even do this pose with a couple of blocks or heavy books to keep that spaciousness around you. Or keep it simple and do your Z, whatever suits this evening. In your shape, come back to the Ujjayi breath, steady breath in. And steady breath out. And now gliding that left leg around. And we're going to come into a short meditation before moving down to relaxation. So, you can grab a cushion and to elevate your hips with. So you've got a nice tall seat. Create a bit more space for your hips and knees to move down towards the ground. And we're going to return to a Pan Mudra where we began. So the ring finger, middle finger to the thumb, and then your index finger and little fingers pointing out. And turning this mudra back to face up on the knees. Either closing your eyes or settling into that soft gaze down on the ground, slightly ahead of you. And allow yourself to settle into stillness as you bring your awareness down towards the lower body, the feet, the knees, the thighs and the pelvis. And notice the areas of the lower body that are in contact with the ground. Feel into a settling and a grounding quality as you scan your awareness around the whole of the lower body. And invite the lower body to kind of drop into this seat of meditation. And now guiding your awareness to the pelvis and the lower back. And gently scan your awareness up through the vertebrae of the spine. Maybe finding a very subtle rock forwards and back from the hips and the spine until you steady yourself into your centered upright position. A slight effortless lift and elongation through the crown of the head. And imagine the neck growing a little longer and taller. And imagine the shoulders getting heavier, the elbows and forearms heavier, so that they relax and soften and be weighty, freeing up the length of the spine. I'll remind you of the qualities of this mudra. Apan mudra, known as energy mudra, has a balancing effect on the mind. It gives us patience, serenity, confidence, inner balance and harmony, and creates the ability to develop a vision when facing new challenges. So as you're here in your meditation this evening, I invite you to dare to dream your most positive birth experience. And this could be the meeting and greeting of your child, your new baby. Whenever fear, doubt, distraction, or judgment arises, and you let that go with the out breath. And nourish your vision with your intention, receiving your in-breath. Take a moment to notice the pace and rhythm of your breath. However that's landed, maybe it's shifted through your visualization. Notice the pulse of your own heart and recognizing your baby's heart within you. And the strong connection between you both. There's unconditional love that binds you. And allow yourself to bask in that for a moment. Tapping into the courage and the fierceness of this love. Fueling you to face life's challenges. And the strength of this love that already exists is with you. Now turning the gaze down to the ground, blinking the eyes open and releasing your mudra. Now very slowly make your way down to relaxation, to our final pose. So you can grab all your cozies, maybe definitely a cushion in between your thighs, maybe a blanket and some socks. And then come down to that left side lying position. with your cushion in between the knees, taking a bend into the knees and lowering the head maybe onto a cushion if you've got that, or onto the upper arm. You can work as your cushion. Allowing that right hand to rest wherever it naturally wants to sit. And as you find your reclining position, now take a few of those longer breaths out to shift you in towards that state of relaxation, the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest state. This long exhale can help us head in towards that direction, letting go of anything that's not needed for rest. We're taking a steady breath in through the nose. And a nice long, slow sigh through the mouth. Feel the body sigh as the breath sighs. Feel the body kind of drop and be a fraction heavier. We'll take 2 more like that. Breathe in. And sighing out. Maybe stretching the jaw or even blubbering the lips on the next one. Breathing in. The eyelids to be heavy and the facial muscles to be soft. Dissolve in any last pieces of tension or any lingering face expressions. Allow your face expression to melt, soften and relax. Welcome in this space of relaxation. Shift into a place of receptivity and rest. We'll do a little body scan. I encourage you to reap and absorb this relaxation. Starting by landing your awareness in the toes and the feet. So you glide your awareness across the big toes, second, third, fourth and little toes. And up the roof of the feet, round to the inner arch of the foot, to the heels, and the soles, whole sole of both feet. Noticing any sensations in the feet. Allowing your feet to completely relax. And guide your awareness up through the length of the shins, the calves, around to the knees, the inner seam of the knee, up through the inside of the thighs, around to the front of the thighs, the back of the thighs. Guiding your awareness from the toes all the way up through the length of the legs to your hips. Allowing your legs to completely relax. And now circling your awareness around the pelvis. Recognizing all of that work that your pelvis is currently doing to prepare for your baby. And that support for your baby. Allowing your pelvis to be held, supported by the ground and the cushion. Inviting the pelvis and hips to completely relax. Soften and let go. Now drawing your awareness around to your baby and your bump. Acknowledging your baby within you. It's very much a part of you and always will be a part of you. Acknowledging the breathe in for 2. You nourish yourself with that presence to your rise and fall of your breath. Guide your awareness up through the length of the spine, across the shoulder blades and down the length of the arms to the fingers and the palms. Visualizing your next in-breath traveling in through the nose, deep into the lungs, expanding out through to the arms and the length of the arms to the fingertips. You send your awareness there. And then finally scanning your awareness across the front of the body, up through the belly and the chest, the collarbones, the throat, and back to the face. As you re-welcome that relaxation of the face muscles, softening the brow, the eyes, the cheeks and the jaw. Coming back to that space of receptivity, receiving the nourishment of your practice. So this is a short poem by Donna Folds called Sangha. And Sangha means company or community. You can stay in your relaxation pose for this poem. And there's nowhere to be, nowhere to go. Teach me what I cannot learn alone. Let us share what we know and what we cannot fathom. Speak to me of mysteries, and let us never lie to one another. May our fierce and tender longing fuel the fire in our souls. When we stand side by side, let us dare to focus our desire on the truth. May we be reminders, each for the other, that the path of transformation passes through the flames. To take one step is courageous. To stay on the path day after day, choosing the unknown and facing yet another fear, that is nothing short of grace. Allow your awareness to land back on your breath. Taking a steady breath in through the nose, filling up the entire body with that nourishment of the in-breath. And a long, soft sigh through the mouth, releasing the breath and the body. And gently rock your head from side to side, easing out the neck and the head. And a welcome bit of movement in your hands and your feet, wiggling the fingers and toes. And very gently ease your way back up to seated. And as you arrive in seated, bring the hands to Anjali Mudra, this gesture to close our practice, gesture of gratitude and connection. Thank yourself for committing to this course, and thank you for joining me. Namaste.